What's up to all our sidekicks and henchfolk out there in the Geek Nation? You're currently tuning into the CultPop podcast live stream, aka Spoiler Alert, episode 700, episode 745, where we review the past week's comics as well as talk about some fun pop culture topics for your listening and viewing pleasure. I'm your host, Johnny Destructo, owner of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, located at 4327 Main Street, Philadelphia, PA. A rad-ass shop for nerds of all shapes and sizes. Except jerks. No jerks allowed. I don't care what shape or size you are. If you're a jerk, no. This is the part where I write anything in the script and JD reads it. Have you ever danced with the deviled eggs in the cold cut deli? I just like to ask that of all my prey. With me this morning are some of my favorite people. First up, Brian Lieb. Brian.
Hi. Yes.
If you have a cold hot pocket, is it just a pocket?
I'd still want to call it a cold pocket, right? Just so people don't get confused and think, oh, he's got a hot pocket, and he thinks I already know it's hot. Yeah. I'd say, and then I use the word pocket in any other context, I say something like pants pocket, because hot pockets are my primary pockets.
Next, we welcome back arbiter of good taste and a man gracious enough to loan Noel a copy of Astro City, Ooh. Len the Bat Tribble.
Hello.
Len, this question was asked of Brian last week, but it's time we put you on the spot. If you were a transformer, what would you transform into?
Nia Long. What? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I would.
Gracious.
I took that someplace it wasn't supposed to go, but I would gladly go at any time, any place.
So the answer is vibrator? Did anyone respond? Did anyone answer robot?
Robot. Yes, this would be my transformed form.
Yeah, I would transform into a robot version of.
It's a good answer.
Noel is not here today, and we are all better for it. Anyway, thank you for everyone joining us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you like what we're doing here, and I can't imagine that you do, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share, baby. The joy of doing this live is you all in the chat, so pipe up if you feel so inclined, and we may comment live during the show. Let's get this started. With Aliens Aftermath #1 from Marvel Comics, written by Benjamin Percy with art by Dave Wachter. It's been 35 years since the tragedy of the Hadley's Hope colony. But what happened to that ill-fated venture has been shrouded in mystery. A renegade crew of investigative journalists are heading towards the moon that Weyland-Yutani has wiped from all records, and they'll bring back the truth, even if it kills them. And what remains in that bombed-out site will try to do just that. Benjamin Percy and David Wachter imagine a terrifying possible future for LV-426 in this celebration of the 35th anniversary of one of the most influential science fiction films of all time. I am a big Alien fan. Well, you know what? I'm a moderate Alien fan. I imagine a big Alien fan would be able to remember LV-426, right? I don't remember shit like that. I barely remember that the place was called Hadley's Hope, and I had to go like, oh, right, Hadley's Hope, that was Aliens. You know what I mean? So, like,
well, how much do you like it, though?
I enjoy them quite a bit.
Oh, you're a big Alien fan.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Robert Monroe is in the chat saying, good morning, fellers. So, Len, I'm going to assume, because you told me directly you didn't read this.
Oh no, I did read this.
Oh, you did?
I did read this. This is not
the best one on it.
There is a book that I didn't read, but this is not it. This is not it.
Oh, then what did you think of the Hadley's Hope Redux?
Okay. I'm going to review all of the books that we reviewed today under like two lenses.
Nice.
I know. That's my job, right? So, I'm going to review them under two lenses. One from a process point of view, and then one from a cultural or just personal perspective, right? So from a process point of view, just as a comic book, as a put together comic book, Alien Aftermath #1 is a good comic book. It's good art. I enjoy the art by Dave Wachter, as it were, and the script by Benjamin Percy is kind of lively. I feel like these people are speaking with a genuine tone. They feel like they are speaking with their own individual personalities. The coloring is very moody, as you would expect in a alien film. I feel like and it does feel like it's part of the alien universe, because Aliens, despite its sci-fi nature, a lot of it has like a almost like a very militaristic type of tone, very dark and moody, and that is definitely all a part of what's here. And there's always like this undercurrent of some like conspiracy that's going on in almost every one of the alien films, and that is true in this comic book. So in that regards, this comic book is well done. Where it loses me culturally is that, one, it hinges on, like JD said, you remembering, certain aspects of the alien universe, as it were, to kind of like switch on the member berries in your head to activate them, right? And where Alien loses out on something like Star Wars, which was legitimately a cultural phenomenon that almost the entire world got swept up in, and by way of having its own universe of novels that kind of like stemmed the tide in between the films, and then the films resurrecting and then becoming big things, and then it becoming part of the streaming zeitgeist via Disney. The Star Wars universe, everybody is kind of like inundated enough that everybody's member berries, they never got turned off. They're always activating, always looking for the force bouncing around. Something like Star Trek has been rebooted, had many multiple spin-offs along with the movies, so that has never truly been deactivated, right? Plus, both Star Wars and Star Trek individually have their own immense fan bases that are so large that they each have their own individual convention circuits, like special reunions. So like they are deep embedded in like the DNA of who you are. If you are just not even just a casual geek, if you are just a human being, right? Aliens, as good as it was, as good as it is, will never, despite what they try, reach that level. And to keep trying to pull at these different various strings in the history of Alien to create these tangents that are now coming out in these comics, I think is a it's like just a losing job. It's like I don't think they're going to make it. Now they're pulling at the strings that you remember the one person from the film who was a Hispanic woman who was very right, Hispanic, quote. Yo, we ain't even going to get into the problems about how that really went down. If I wanted to, we could go there. But they're asking us to rep for that character's heritage moving on. Like we're supposed to care about. I don't even think is this her grandson, or I think it's like
Nitia is my aunt, so it's Vasquez's nephew.
Right, so it's not even like direct descendant. It's like the aunt ninth removed. You know what I mean? Like we really are supposed to care that much. Nobody was looking for the continuation of her story. One, because of the problematic nature of the origin of the character. And just real quick, well, I'll let JD fill you in on that because he knows it deep. But two, while she was cool in the movie, if you really watch the movie again, she don't do much. She really don't. She carries around a big gun and then she get got. So it's like we're really supposed to care about that. So and that, yes, they do a good comic, but it's a comic book about a universe and pulling at strings from the past of it that I ultimately do not care. And I really think the majority of the reading public in comics today is not going to care.
Well, I can see what you're saying. This isn't for everyone. This is for fans of Alien and Aliens. The happenings in question with Lieutenant Vasquez, she was, and I didn't realize this until like last year, but she's played by Jeanette Elise Goldstein, who, if you remember in T2, the redheaded mother of, the foster mother of John Connor, who's got red hair, and oh, what happened to Wolfie? That whole thing, the schlick and through the milk carton into the face. What a great scene. Anyway,
the white
same
woman.
actress, the white woman. They brown faced up to play Vasquez. So while I was reading this, and I'm reading about Vasquez's nephew, I'm like, as played by Tom Cruise, as played by Scarlett Johansson, I think. So, I thought that was pretty funny too. I was like, oh man, of all the characters to reference, they're going to reference like that one, the white lady in brown face. All right, that's fine, I guess. Now, the interesting thing about this though is what happens, right? Because at the end, I guess a nuke goes off. I'm trying to remember the end of Aliens. There's a nuke. And so they go back to this planet, and there's sort of a nuclear winter happening, which is pretty cool, which you've never really seen in Alien before. And we see what that does to the xenomorph, which is kind of cool and I'm a little confused. Is it invisible or does it glow?
Right.
I thought it was like a ghost. I thought it was like a ghost thing. Yeah.
Like I can't tell by the way they illustrate it, but I guess it's not invisible because she looks up and she sees it.
She does.
So I guess they're a little easier to see now because they're glowing in the dark, which I thought was kind of cool. And not only that, their blood is no longer acid. So usually when you hit a xenomorph, the problem is if you hit it with a grenade or with bullets, their blood will spray on you, and that itself will kill you because it's acid. Here, it's what do you call that? It freezes you.
Yeah. It's like liquid nitrogen.
Yeah.
Liquid nitrogen. So yeah, it like hits this woman in the arm, and her arm just breaks off, ka-chunk. So I mean, there's some cool stuff in this Aliens book. If you like Aliens and you're curious about what happens after Aliens, the sequel, this is actually pretty dope. I actually quite enjoyed this. Now, the problem I'm having with this, these Marvel comics is in the Alien comic that Marvel is currently putting out, it's sort of the same plot. We've got people who are going after Weyland-Yutani, and they are, resistance fighters sort of things, and here we've got the same thing, except, oh wait, they're putting out podcasts.
Yeah, it's Vice TV. After Weyland-Yutani.
Really spoke to me
XM,
as
like
a
right
member
after
of the human race in this time on the planet.
Something XM. They go on after Howard Stern, I guess, and they record what they're doing with Weyland-Yutani, which is funny because of course then Weyland-Yutani finds out what they're doing because they fucking broadcast it.
Well, I would figure they do it like later, right? Like they do their big
after the
hit,
fact,
and then it's not live.
But my question is there a sequel to is this a one shot? Because it says it's not game over yet. Check out Alien number 5. So it just puts you back to the other Aliens series from Marvel, not Aliens Aftermath number 2.
Well, maybe the similarity that you noticed has something to do with that. Like maybe these two stories are intertwined.
That's an excellent point.
Because not many of these people make it, right? Like there's not a lot of characters by the end of issue 1 that are still around.
That's true.
So maybe they'll have something to do with whatever else is going on.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do with this property, which is, hey, there's a group of people, they wind up in a place, and they're all dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you think, Brian?
So I've never seen any of the Alien movies.
Oh, perfect jumping on point.
That's what I thought. As I was reading it, I was like, whoa, what an engrossing world that I have stumbled into. But I'm reading it and I was like, I wonder if this Hadley's Hope is from one of the movies. And then I kind of remembered that Vasquez was a character. I've heard about her, I hadn't heard all about her, but I heard about her. So yeah, I guess. And there was another thing. I was like, oh, can aliens usually? I don't think they can go ghostly like this. What's the story here?
Right.
So I agree with Len that it is a well put together comic. I found myself thinking like, oh, they're not really introducing you at all to it. However, this is a sequel comic to a sequel movie. I don't know that it's on them to introduce you to this world. Like, let's get rolling, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was a pretty well done comic, but I felt a little like I don't know what's going on or what the impact of this stuff is. And then at some point, I figured out for sure that he was the nephew of that woman, but whatever. It's cool. I didn't realize that Yutani was a person. Like still, like this was a machinator, you know.
Well, the other thing about this, and JD kind of pointed this out, and Brian, if you watch the 3 Alien movies, well, there's more than 3, but for a lot of people, there's really only 3 hardcore. Like there really is 3 Alien movies. But if you watch them, they kind of like they're almost all 3 the same story.
Oh yeah,
it's just the genre in which they're written in. Even though it's still the same universe, one is definitely more horror based. One is leans more on the science fiction, and the last one is like almost more like a thriller type of thing. You know what I mean? And that is really what separates the films, because it distilled them, and I have found pretty much most of the alien, like anything alien that I've read or seen after that, they pretty much all distill down to the same story. So it's like, how many times can you just keep doing the exact same story? Like there's one thing to be said, and I've said this a lot of times about, you know, how many times we want to keep bringing the Joker back and he's keep on doing the same thing. And it does get annoying, but they at least try to wrap some type of different colored bow around it. With this, it almost is exactly the same story, and it is like, where are you going to go with this? Like,
well, I think that's the difference too between they're trying to build it out and make it like a franchise kind of thing, but from what I know, outside that you're now confirming, like there's just that one thing. The aliens, there's not a lot of depth of story. Like the aliens don't have any development. They're just a scary thing. And I hear they tried to do it in Prometheus, but it was like not technically connected. It was only, I don't know what the deal with that was. But
it was a prequel.
But it was like officially a prequel. It wasn't like, oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes.
Yeah, there's, Star Wars has mythology and Star Trek has philosophy. And this is just like a scary monster. Yeah. From what I can understand. Yeah,
you got it. Right. I actually have a soft spot in my brain for Alien 4 as well, Resurrection.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's the one where Sigourney Weaver is like not real, and she's like a hybrid of Sigourney Weaver clone and the Alien Queen.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And it's got Winona Ryder in it, and
See, that's the other thing, right? You can always add somebody can always come along and be like, oh, here's this whole interesting thing. And then there is mythology. Also, Len, I was looking up that woman, Jeanette Goldstein. She was the voice of the Enterprise computer in 2 of the short treks from the recent Star Trek stuff.
Yeah, I didn't read that. Yeah.
Interesting.
In the comments, R. Lunar says, "Morning, fellas. Alien was the first R-rated movie I saw on Select TV."
Wait, hey, how old were you, R. Lunar, at the time?
Should you have been watching an R-rated movie? Week? All right, let's move on to the next book. I'll tell you what it is. It's Infinite Frontier #2 from DC Comics, written by Joshua Williamson with art. Well, written by Joshua Williamson and a bunch of other writers, and art by Paul Pelletier and a bunch of other artists. What secrets and changes lurk inside the newly expanded multiverse? The devious Dr. Bones of the DEO reforms a ragtag team to keep the new worlds at bay. But was highly skilled Agent Cameron Chase recruited because the director needed her help? Or because he wants a patsy when things go south. I feel like the answer is kind of in the question. Meanwhile, Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, takes drastic measures to find his missing daughter. Someone has kidnapped Jade, and Alan's going to find out why and bring her home. Plus, the resurrection of Roy Harper gives the former Teen Titan some unexpected and unpredictable new powers. This, as I was starting to read it, I was of the mind that, man, DC needs to chill their asses on some big events. And I realize this isn't a big event. It is the aftermath of a big event.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, can we just get some stories that aren't about big events, please? But then I kept reading it, and I was like, this is great. This is a lot of fun. Nice. I'm actually having a lot of fun with this. So my sour taste was washed away. I actually quite enjoyed this issue. And the surprise ending, I was like, oh shit. I don't know. I guess we could spoil it if you want. What did you guys think of it, Len?
Well, before I say anything, I want to ask a question. You said as you were reading it along the way, you found yourself like, oh my God, this was big fun. What about it turned it from being like, oh my God, what are we doing, to, hey, I'm digging this? Like, when did the trigger get to switch for you?
Well, okay. The first problem, I'll start with my problem, was in the beginning of the issue, we are introduced to, Chase goes into the Justice League, the Hall of Justice, and it says Earth Zero. And I was like, wait a minute, which one's Earth Zero? That's like the regular DC Earth, right? And then she calls Superman Super Clark. So then I was like, wait a minute, is Earth Zero not our Earth, the regular DC Earth? Like, his name appears to be Super Clark. It's not like she calls him Superman and then calls him Clark. Super Clark is actually in the Superman font. So on this Earth, is he actually called Super Clark? And then as I was reading through, I was like, no, this is just our Earth. Oh, right, Clark. Everyone knows that he's Clark now, and she's just being cute.
Right.
It's not that it's another. So that's where I was a little frustrated. Like, I don't even know what Earth we're on because of just the way things were presented, and that was a little frustrating. And I was like, but all the things they're talking about seem to be about Earth Zero. But then I liked the return of Batman's dad, and sort of his turn, and how they sort of reference the Tom King run and everything that all his machinations in there, and how he was kind of like, ooh, maybe I was kind of a dick. Maybe I was wrong, and maybe it's good if Bruce thinks I'm dead. And so that was kind of interesting. I like the return of Magog, and I don't really care about these guys. I'm not entirely sure what they're doing, what their point is. And, are they called the Totality? Because the Totality in Scott Snyder's run of Justice League was the big thing that kicked all of this off. Is this a new Totality? We're calling the team the Totality? That was confusing. But then I did like what was going on with Roy Harper as the Black Lantern. And then things go sour immediately for him. Like, just right off the bat.
He can't buy a break. He can't get a break.
Right? And then the thing with Captain Atom at the end, I was like, oh shit, okay, this was fun. I did not expect a lot of this. While some of it was confusing for me, I can't tell if it was confusing for me because I was not paying enough attention or because it's confusing. Was it confusing for you guys at all?
It wasn't. It wasn't confusing because I'm just used to the machinations of comic books. So if I didn't really understand something, I was like, if I keep reading, it'll start filling some blanks for me or whatever. Like, because I'm still a little bit unclear of what happened to Roy Harper. I know something happened while he was at the Sanctuary, and now he's kind of back. And if you read another comic book, maybe he's back, maybe he's not. I don't know what the hell's going on. But I'm like, okay, and the lanterns, I never got into all the colored lanterns. I was like, that's cool. The United Benetton lanterns, that's nice. He's got a black one.
That's a reference.
So I'll keep it going. So there was parts of it where I was like, I don't know what's going on. First of all, it had Cameron Chase in there. Longtime fan of Cameron Chase. So I was like, all right, you suckered me in. I'm gonna read the book because it's Cameron Chase. So I'm here, right? And the artwork in the book is very, very good. So that kept me flowing along with it as well. Plus, there's a part of me that liked that this aftermath of whatever happened in the big event taking place in one comic book. Okay, I'll ride with you on that. And I'm sure this will start branching out into other books slowly. But if the main meat of it is happening here, then I'll rock with this. I'm cool. So while I can't say that I had fun reading the comic book, I did think that it was still an interesting comic book, and it again like activated some member berries with the whole Speedy thing, which just made me feel sad because I was like, man, this man can't get a break. God, Roy is just made to just get arrows plunked into his chest no matter what. Like, Roy
Forget the Parker look. This Harper look is worse.
Right? Exactly. So I'm with that. The thing with Captain Atom at the end, as cool as it is, it almost reminded me of like every time I see Captain Atom show up in a comic book. Because the exact same thing
happens. He blows up. He does blow up a lot. Yeah.
Oh, here he comes. All right. Everyone put on your suits. Everyone put on your nuke suits.
Why do you think they don't hang out with him that often?
Yeah.
And it was a shame because he's having a speech. Like, you know what? I'm done with it.
Yeah.
You know, and then next thing you know, it's like, no, you're not, because Dark Side is. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, whatever. So it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about Chase? You think Chase got out of that?
Oh, Chase is getting out. No, yes. Come on. Chase got
sometimes he goes to other realities when he blows up. You know, they could be over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, Chase got. She probably got Brainiac 5s and force field belt.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
Made into
the Nick Fury stuff. Yeah.
Or it was a projection.
Yeah.
She wasn't actually there.
Yeah. Chase is fine. Chase is fine.
I think I'm not sure. I love this panel, and I'll give you one reason why. You were talking about the art earlier, and let me see if I can look at Hal's hand there. Look at that Hal. Whose Hal is that? As an artist, what artist is Hal? Is that?
See, now to me, a lot of his art reminded me a little bit of Alan Davis.
There you go. Look at that hand.
Okay.
Look at that hand. That is an Alan Davis hand.
Yeah.
Alan Davis and Mark Farmer.
Well, to be honest, I noticed that Alan Davis. I also noticed that his Batman is a David Mazzucchelli Batman. So methinks I noted a couple of swipes in here, but you know, it's not. I wasn't going to point it out.
Well, there's different. It's different artists. It's not just Paul Pelletier or Paul Pelletier, however you say his name.
I thought it was different inkers.
Oh, is that it? No, that's not Paul. Look at that. That's not Paul.
Yeah, because that's beautiful. Yeah, you may be right.
Yeah.
I agree about the art. The like when Superman shows up in the second page, I'm like, oh, just as I want to see him. You know, like which is nice too, because that's been a little on and off. And the Batman is very cool. I really dig all of that stuff. The art is just like very solid comic art. And I like that, and it feels appropriate for this story. I had kind of a similar feeling, not about this book, JD, but about the events in general. And, you know, the DC, like the one big event after another, constantly reframing what they're doing. And for a couple of reasons, this has felt different, like from the start. You know, once they did the Infinite Frontier #0 back then, it feels like a totally different kind of thing. Like less of a, let's go in a whole new direction, and more of like, let's go back to, let's stop doing all the whole new directions kind of thing. And this series too is like, it is the kind of thing that could be a summer's big event, but it isn't that. It's just its own story. And I really like that. And I like the idea of let's see what happens after some big event.
Well, I was trying to remember what's the goal of this series. I was like, oh, right, there is a different Earth with no vibration, and there is a ship that somehow has blown apart, and fragments of it are sort of scattered throughout the different multiversal.
Oh, right. I forgot about that part. Actually,
Earths.
What they were collecting.
Right. I was trying to
Yeah.
why? What are we accomplishing here with this series, other than like these cool moments? And I think it's the discovery of this new Earth that we've never seen yet.
Yeah, and I think the overriding principle for so you had said you don't remember what's happening with Alan Scott and like why he's there with Vandal Savage, and they call themselves the Totality, which they have mentioned before. I think that was in the Infinite Frontier number 0, but their goal is to stop any more crises, any more multiversal events, which is also the goal of the President Superman's group, but they operate on a more multiversal level, and the Totality is just, I guess, working it from this universe's end. And then Barry Allen is kind of a liaison between the two of them, and is maybe sort of on both teams. I really like the Alan Scott. So, I mean, I just love Alan Scott being back. And then I always thought Obsidian and Jade were cool. So I like that they are interacting together, and we'll see what happens with that. The Roy Harper stuff is great. I love when they do those connections, right? Like he's got a Black Lantern ring, and he's known Hal Jordan since he was a teenager. And so he can draw on that memory. And even artistically, having that Green Lantern symbol right in the center is, this comic feels pretty steeped in DC history in general.
Oh, yes.
And
this is not for newbies.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely steeped in DC history as far as that goes, but also maybe a bit in just presentation, which is something I hadn't thought of before. But, maybe the Alan Davis swipe when he's remembering something from an earlier era is not accidental. Yeah. Maybe that's purposefully done to evoke that art style. And Len, you are not alone. Everyone, including Roy Harper, does not know what the deal with Roy Harper is right now. He's back, and he's like, "What's happening? I don't know what's what." So that's not something that you've got to worry about. And the Captain Atom thing. I think it's a cool idea. He's a Captain Atom from another universe. I always had a soft spot for Captain Atom. He looks cool.
I like his design.
Yeah, he looks cool. His powers are cool. He's got he's got cool stuff.
The way they draw him here is very Bart Sears, with like all of the muscle, the way they draw the muscles and stuff. It just felt very Bart Sears, if anyone knows who that is anymore. But
but Bart Sears would draw muscles on. The muscles would have steroids. Like this is not as Bart Sears.
The baby has grabbed my laptop and is moving it. There we go.
There it is.
Okay, sorry.
And I don't think we've seen Captain Atom looking like this in a while either. He's had that like Kingdom Come design, the gold with the giant atom on it for a little while, and then when he was in the New 52, he was very different, right? He was like a Dr. Manhattan-ish type of Captain Atom, ironically enough.
Yeah.
And so
my Captain Atom, I think, was drawn by Pat Broderick. Is the first time I ever encountered Captain Atom. So I always have that Pat Broderick style in my head.
Which one is that? Is that the series where he's...
Oh, it's this one. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's this look. Yeah.
It's this look. Yeah.
A lot more hair.
No, I was just the more hair. And I have in this image in my mind of that Captain Atom #1 cover where you remember he's like in the center of it, and there's this egg kind of contraption, and he's like turning into Captain Atom. I don't know if that was maybe
that's the one I think. Yeah.
It's a good one. Yeah.
I think it's funny that Chase, there's this guy who's made of radiation.
Right.
And she's like, I've got a gun pointed at your head.
Yeah. Sorry, Jenny, it's radiation. It's alien metal.
It's a bullet.
You go to war with what you got. That's what she got.
I know.
Although she was going to see Captain Atom, right? So maybe it's a special kind of bullet.
Right. Hopefully she's a little bit more prepared.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll get this more, right? Like people from other Earths are here and, just trying to live their lives kind of thing.
Yeah, some sort of a, gosh, I can never think of the word. People who are trying to escape a place to come to a new place are
like a
refugees.
witness protection? Oh, refugees.
I was thinking like multiversal refugees who are like trying to leave other multiverses to come to this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be honest, We have had this as far back as in the 70s because the Black Canary of the Justice League was technically the daughter of the Black Canary from Earth 2.
Yeah.
Over to Earth 1 to live her life away, away from her mother, even though she was doing what her mother did. So we've had it for a long time.
Yeah. And in JLA Avengers, one of my favorite parts was that, like, reference that clearly Hawkeye came over and lived, but the idea that they like knew each other and were friends and would go back and forth.
The next on the list is Ninjak, but let's jump since we're on this tip. The Flash Annual 2021, number 1, DC Comics, written by written by Jeremy Adams, and art by Fernando Passarin.
He's the best.
The lightning-fast and action-packed Surge storyline races to its conclusion as Wally West returns to the present day with a new perspective on the past and a reinvigorated desire to take back the mantle of the Flash. Finally, with one last hurdle to leap, Wally puts the past behind him, but he'll need to propel himself further and faster than ever before to do it. So, they are finally doing the thing that I have been waiting for them to do, which is do some work on Heroes in Crisis. Heroes in Crisis was a Tom King series, and oh gosh, give me a honey, I know. I'm just trying to bring up the Flash so that we can show the viewers. I want them to see it. I'm going to bring it up, and then I'll put the bottle back in your face. Oh my lord! Okay, here we go. Heroes in Crisis. Ah, yes. Heroes in Crisis was a misstep, as far as I'm concerned, as a Flash fan, as a Wally West fan. And the thing that happened there felt weird. The way they wrap it up felt weird for someone who's able to travel through time, and the way he solves it, quote unquote, is weird and felt very un-Wally West to me. And there have been a couple of attempts to make it make sense to Wally West fans. One of those things was, the Batman who laughs was whispering in his ear the whole time, and he didn't really know it, and that's why he did what he did. And here we visit Heroes in Crisis yet again. It is a moment stuck in time. What happened was, Heroes in Crisis was a really interesting idea for a story wherein Tom King wanted to explore the different PTSD and anxieties that superheroes would face dealing with what they deal with on a daily basis. Wally West was a family man. He had a wife, Linda Park, and 2 children who I hated, and he was erased from history. And then when he winds his way back, his wife doesn't remember him, his children still don't exist, etc., etc. And so he goes to Sanctuary, which is a place specifically set up for people who need some therapy, and they're superheroes. They've got secret identities. I'm sorry, superheroes and some, I don't know, anti-heroes, kind of like, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, etc. And there's a murder mystery that happens. Spoiler alert, it's discovered that, the Flash was behind it. He lost control of his powers, he murdered everybody with lightning, and then ran through time in order to murder himself, in order to fool Batman, in order to fix it later, but then he doesn't fix it, he just murders himself. Anyway, it was awful. And now we are sort of discovering, it wasn't Wally. That's not Wally's fault. It's this surge that was happening throughout the Speed Force, and that surge is what kills everybody at Sanctuary.
Sanctuary, right.
Yeah. So I guess that's fine. Wally is now relieved of his guilt. He no longer is responsible for having murdered all those people and then fucking covered it up. Although that doesn't change it. That doesn't change my problem with the story now that I'm saying it out loud. The problem isn't that Flash lost control of his powers and killed everybody. It's that he covered it up in order to try and fix it. But what he does is he kills himself in order to... I'm trying to remember how he fixes it. He kills future him and... Fuck me. I can't even remember how bad it was. Brian?
There was another addendum to that, JD, that I didn't know, but I just read an article about it. So Reverse Flash somehow manipulated him into doing those things.
Oh, that's what it was. It wasn't the Batman Who Laughs. It was Eobard Thawne. Right.
Right. And then they created like a clone body that was the body that was there. But there are two prongs to these, right? That's done. It's in the books. The real thing that happens now is nobody ever talks about it again. And then eventually it just never happened.
Yeah.
Because that's how these fictional characters
comics work. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
But it was fun to revisit and watch them try and undo what they had done to Wally West. What did you think of it?
Oh, I loved it, right? I have been all about this series. I have been all about the just like flash, the deep flashness of it all.
The flash of it all, yeah.
Yeah, the flash of it all has been really evident, and I like that a lot. Like he's the whole idea of the story arc where he is traveling back and is inhabiting these different characters lets us see cool things from the Flash. They talk about cool things from the Flash, and he is behaving like I expect him to behave, which is cool too, right? As you know, I am a really big Barry Allen fan, but the stories have not really grabbed me in the way that I would like, and I'm glad to see Wally back. I thought this was a cool way to do it, and also a cool way to still, like, Barry's around. We've discussed many times, like, I would love him as just kind of a wiser, or, more closer to like a Max Mercury kind of guy. But yeah. Oh, and I thought the reason for it, right? Another deep Flash cut that still works, even if you don't know about who he is, Savitar. I thought I was like, yeah, Savitar. He was cool. He was come from one of the big epic 90s Wally West stories. I think after beating him is maybe one of the first times that Wally accidentally traveled in time, and Linda was like his lightning rod to get back.
Okay. Nice.
Maybe. Or actually, no, it was when he congealed the suit into the Speed Force for the first time, I think. I don't know. One, both, or neither of those.
The one thing, now that I'm looking back on it, the one thing that was weird is, so the Heroes in Crisis storyline had, if you're looking at the screen right now, these 9-panel grids where a character is going through therapy and they're just talking to someone you don't see. And they do that here, but he's just talking to nobody in the bathroom.
Yeah, that is weird. That is weird. I think they tried to figure out, like, how can we mimic this?
Yeah.
But still have it, because there's no reason he would, like, go into the sanctuary and record a new video while he's there.
But then at the end, one of the kids is like, "Dad, are you still in the bathroom?"
Right.
Like, okay, that was weird.
Although I did think it was cool that it was tomorrow, and then the rest of the story happens, which sometimes can be real annoying. But also, I think this was a really well done, like, rehabilitation. Right? Like, it hits all the different points. Like, Green Arrow was especially upset with him and is present for the reason that he shouldn't be upset. So, also, I read Infinite Crisis. I forget if I read it first or not, but I definitely read last month. And I was like, oh, Roy's fine. He's fine. Like, he'll be... I mean, he's going through something, as usual. But
Infinite Frontier?
Infinite Frontier. Sorry, not Infinite Crisis. Yeah. And you get a little tease of, like, what was this room that Savitar was in? Who put him there? Because I think that will be happening in the future. And I'm excited to see what happens next. And you get a little Justice League action too. And as we said before, when they were deep in Wally being bad, people are like, "There's no way you can undo this." And it's like, yes, you can. Something was wrong with the Speed Force, and here we are. Yeah. Oh, and the fast, being super fast thing at the end, the fight with Savitar, very well done. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, it's classic fun Flash. I really like this.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is up there with Nightwing for me right now. I was talking about not dealing with the multiversal stuff as much, DC Comics, and maybe just doing fun stories. This feels a little bit more like that. They are dealing with... Heroes in Crisis wasn't really an event.
Right.
So them dealing with it doesn't really feel like the problem that I had with Infinite Frontier at first. This feels more like classic Wally in the same way that Nightwing feels like classic Dick Grayson.
Cool.
Yeah. Len, what did you think?
No, I hated this. I think
Oh,
this
no.
was, just I'm so, and it's a shame because I like the stories leading up to this. I like Wally jumping in and out of all of these different speedsters and kind of like seeing life through their eyes. I enjoyed a lot of that. But then once it gets to the end, outside of the art, which I think is very, very good, and JD passed a page where you see Roy Harper just standing alone in the field, and I think is one of the most like really just well done pieces of comic book art that I've seen in a long while. But outside of that, every asset that is, I think, is just a really strong piece of artwork. It's very evocative. It puts you in a scene. He looks like he's looking at somebody. You see the kind of like shadow of Flash on the grass blades. It's really cool. Outside of that, I'm like, yo, what are y'all doing here? This is annoying. I am so bored with this. Oh, Savitar, really? Please. He is as corny as his suit. His
suit sucks.
I think he has a cool suit. I like his outfit.
That suit is one of the dumbest. The only people that like that are like choir members. Like, oh, because that would be cooler than what they have to wear. Oh, it can light up in the middle.
No, because he's like a cult guy.
Nothing says I run really fast like huge drapes.
Yeah, I mean, this is
between my legs.
It's stupid. It's really stupid. I'm tired of the Speed Force being looked at as either like this force or a person, or now it's like it's a fuse. It's got a surge in it. Oh, we got to hit the surge breaker, so we can. But we got to push the surge out of the. Like, get the fuck out of here. This is so stupid. And then Mr. Terrific is supposed to be the smartest man in the DC universe. He's like, so how are we going to save him? Like, just get out of here.
Well, to be fair, that's no.
Green Arrow is about to have a very cathartic moment. Excuse me, we are all here to save your boy Wally, but now I'm finding out that Roy is here and you telling me there's nothing we can do? No, let's make this happen. We need to make this happen. So and that sounds like a real motherfucking moment, right? So yes. Do they whitewash it by having, Roy, look into my eyes and Ollie can see you? Like, get the hell out of here. But okay, Roy gives him this deep heart to heart, and I realize I've got to die. And then we are expected to believe that in the 5 minutes after that, Green Arrow, who we know, not just from our history with the character, but from this book, can be a very highly emotional dude, is supposed to eat that and just be like, all right, yeah, one love, Wally. Get the fuck. And it didn't even.
But they have so much history, the two of them.
Even true to the character as he has been being depicted over the last 4 or 5 issues. It made absolutely no sense. It was boring and quiet as kept. I didn't like that once they got back to where Barry and Ollie and all of them were. I didn't like the switch to the art. I like the art from before. I preferred that. Why couldn't you bring that artist over too? I understand that it was already established as this is what that universe looks like. I understand that, but I would have just called an audible and said, "Oh my God, we brought the artist too," and just changed it all over. Because I mean, you're going to change this all over in 2 issues anyway. And if you read Infinite Frontier, you still don't know what happened to Roy. If you read this first, you're like, "Well, Roy died." Well, now why is he a Black Lantern that can't even enjoy a meal at the diner? Why was he at the diner? Like, what the hell is going on? Please.
Well, they don't know. I mean, they don't know that he's alive.
Yeah, I think that's a scheduling problem. I think this was supposed to happen before Infinite Frontier, and maybe that's what happened. I don't know.
No, because I think the thing in Infinite Frontier is like Roy's alive, but he hasn't told anybody. Like he's a Black Lantern. Like he's not. He's clearly
but the emotional heft of this. Saying goodbye to Roy when we know that Roy is back a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
It's empty.
Yeah, I mean, I was just doing it for the character. Like it's not empty for Green Arrow. That kind of thing. But Len, you enjoyed the ones leading up to this, right? The Flash ones that we read. So hopefully, now there was a lot of like Flash continuity lifting done in this issue that won't need to be done. Right, in the future.
Right. After this, it's a clean slate.
Right. So hopefully.
Okay. Remember those words. After this,
No, we're saying hopefully.
Yeah. Well, but that was a big part of the story was like, let's get Wally back to being the Flash and address things that are an issue with that. Which I also think, like, man, they could have just had his kids not around anymore, but not in a sad way. You know, just like, oh, Linda and I are back together and we know we've seen this vision now. In the future, we'll have these kids.
Right.
That would be great. You know?
Yeah,
but
I hate those kids.
Oh, those kids.
Don't hit the kids. They didn't do anything wrong. It was the writers did wrong.
I'll tell you what, if I meet the kids in like a multiverse, it's all real kind of way, I have no grudge against those children.
Yeah.
But in the Flash comics, they've not been that great.
In the only way that I've experienced them so far, I hate them.
Right. Yeah. Well,
I have to take them on a play date with Kai, which isn't one of their names
Jay.
Jay. Oh, right, because it's J-A-I, and my kid's name is K-A-I.
I did definitely think of that when you told me your son's name that they had also, which I thought was a clever thing to do because that means something in Linda Park's cultures. You know, like it's a word there, but it's also Jay, like Jay Garrick.
I also like that he's back in the classic Flash costume.
He's back in this is a brand new version in one little way, I think. So he's got basically what evolved as his costume right before, the New 52, but he's now also has the white eyes, which I think it's cool. It's like a cool look for him. I never liked the white eyes back in the day, but now, they're a little bit different from Barry, and I love seeing this new costume with no gold circle.
So you're saying that we have to pay attention to the eyes so that we can know which Flash is what.
I'd be fine with it if Barry had a different cut. What's that?
Barry has the New 52 piping all along his costume still.
True.
Oh, okay.
And he's got the gold.
Yellow.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not. I think sometimes it depends on the artist.
They don't look
to be that they're supposed to be yellow when he's running.
Right.
When he's not, they're just like not lit up, so you can see them there. And then when he's running, they light up gold. But it depends on the artist. Sometimes they're gold all the time.
I do not like that piping. Like, I have not enjoyed Barry Allen's New 52 costume. The yellow circle around the white and the gold piping.
Also, the way Brandon Peterson draws those ears on both of them, I hate it. I hate it so much. I've seen so many better ear designs than that.
They are. I see this art in general is like, I really like it, but it also maybe isn't the best for the Flash. Like, It's got a bit of a static feel to it. But at the same time, I really enjoy it.
Brandon Peterson is really good at technology and metallic stuff. But the rest of the stuff can feel a little static. Yeah. So I guess that is. So I guess the way this artist does it is they are always gold. It's just so thin. It's a little shiny.
I didn't see that in the print edition even. Like, I didn't notice it until we were like zoomed in. But Len, the reason I brought that up is, like, this is the annual. It finishes the story, and it sucks that you weren't into it. But given that you liked the earlier ones, I have hope that maybe you would like that once they get into their like, oh, we're now telling our Wally West stories, that kind of thing. Gold Beetle, he could come back.
Len, do you care? Do you care about the Flash as a character? And if so, which Flash?
I care about Wally West.
Okay. You're a Wally guy. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just wanted to double check.
And you read the first two of this arc, right?
No, I read a couple of these arcs.
Yeah. Well, no, I remember. I think we reviewed the first two. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Ninjak, or Ninja K, #1 by Jeff Parker and Javier Pulido. That's why I wanted to read this book. I skipped it because I ran out of time, and I was like, I don't care about this anyway. There was some reason that I wanted to read this, and I forgot what it was. Turns out it was Javier Pulido's art. Before I move on, did you guys read this book?
Yes, and the art was awesome, and they should have put it on the cover, and maybe you would have read it.
Ninjak #1, Valiant Comics by Jeff Parker with art by Javier Pulido. Out of the shadows and into the spotlight, the world's greatest super spy has been exposed. Colin King is Ninjak, and he has a target on his back like never before. I was hoping it was going to be like rhyming. With Colin King is Ninjak, and he has a target on his back. With enemies lurking around every corner, how will Ninjak survive when there's nowhere left to hide? That does kind of rhyme. And the world is gunning for him. So who wants to take this away? Someone tell us about the book.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Brian.
Oh,
Brian.
It was awesome. Brian. So yeah, let's call Brandon in. See if we got. So yeah, I don't know Ninjak, right? I remember him from the 90s, like existing and being one of the deluge of Jack suffused characters. And that was about it, right? So
deluge of Jack. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, the 90s. And I, reading this, I open it up. I see this page 1, the like panel stuff. Our friend Rob had been commenting on our chat that he misses panels, right? And I was like, well, you got to read this book. This one right here, it's very simple. The bottom right corner going like diagonally cutting across this grid of 2 other people talking to show these people who are spying on them. Very well done. And then the next one is this like diagonal kind of page. The art inside the panels is really cool too, right? It's this like minimalist, mid-century kind of, mid-last century kind of like cartoon-ish art, but done with so much of that like James Bond opening credits feel to this, which I have only really seen. I sorely lacking in the interior of those movies, just the credits. So, but I think I'm right about that. The colors, the simplicity of the colors on different pages, different colors. It's not like you've got an all red book. You've got different pages are like entirely one or one with hints of another kind of color. And and I'm like, why didn't they do this on the cover? They put this kind of painted look on the cover, which is very generic, very. Very 90s kind of thing. Oh, in my copy, I'm on this page where you see him taking down the people who are chasing the woman that's following him. And you just see his shadow and then the guy's hand. I think it's like 2 or 3 pages after this. Oh, it's good. Oh, and just like the progression of symmetrical. Yeah, this is great. And just the panel layout itself was a lot of what I liked about this book, and then the inside of it. And the story was also cool. I've been going on about the art because it's really good, but I was into the story. The guys, it's
nice.
Nothing that original, but he's been everyone's been exposed, and so he's now teaming up with the woman who thought she was secretly following him. So
nice. I'm looking through this.
The MacGuffin of the story, which is basically about all these, MI6 agents having their cover exposed. It reads almost like a Mission Impossible. Like, you don't really care about the plot. It's all about, the characterization of the people that are we are following along on this adventure, and then the set pieces that they put them in, just to keep the metaphor going with the Mission Impossible movie. And what this comic book does in very simplistic, minimalist strokes, art-wise, is evoke that feel right from the door. Right? It's very like, I'm going deep into the memory, but it's very evocative of Jim Steranko's art,
like
Nick Fury
Shield stuff,
on Shield, or if you ever are able, and I think they just put out a reissue of a lot of the books from Paul Gulacy when he did Shang-Chi, and his comics also had kind of like that very just felt steeped in espionage and mood and just a thriller, and that's what this book does. And I have to be honest, when I opened up the book, because as you said, the cover is a very big business, because you are thinking something totally different when you open up the book. So much so that I think it's kind of cool that the Ninjak that is on the cover never appears in the book. You never see that Ninjak appear.
Yeah.
Ninjak is in here, but it ain't that dude. It is somebody totally immersed in this almost Ed Brubaker-ish spy novel of a story. And I wasn't sure that the art was going to work out. I wasn't sure whether or not the art matched, but like you said, from that opening with the panel layouts and also the panel layouts and the dialogue and how the dialogue is written and displayed across the panels, which is making that also a part of the art and helps with the progression of your reading of this comic book. That made this really an enjoyable comic. Isn't anything wholly original? Hell no. Did it feel fun all the same? Yeah. Yes, it did. And I really enjoyed it. And it feels strange to say that the worst thing about this comic book is that the cover doesn't sell it right.
Yeah.
You're going to, if you are like, if you look at that 90-ish kind of cover, maybe you might buy it if you've got 90s nostalgia, but this is not a 90s comic book in its feel through the pages, and you might feel let down. Conversely, if you're into this type of comic book and you pass this on the shelves, you're going to look past it because it doesn't sell it at all. And that's a shame because this really was a cool comic.
He even does something, Javier even does something really cool here where you've got your word bubbles, but then you've got your word panels. And he even takes one of the word panels and makes it an art panel.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Right? You just, you've got your word panels, and then he just happens to throw in someone looking through binoculars inside the panel.
Yeah.
Very
There's
cool.
a lot of those little moments. Actually, JD, on the bottom of this page is the title, which is also very well done. Like, just graphic design wise. But yeah, Len, you were talking about Steranko's shield, and I know about that one series of panels where he wanted to do something kind of suggestive, and they were like, no, you can't. So he drew a gun in a holster, which is so much more suggestive than, right? But it's that kind of thing. And on page 1, you see it. And here you kind of see it where it's just like a focus on a small object in the scene, kind of, I don't know, just has this cool ring to it. And I think that is also a similar thing to what's happening with that little version in the word box, that little, like almost an icon of this woman looking at him, but it's also a drawing in the same style as the rest of the art. Whoa, this is great.
So good. It's so cool.
If you've got one, JD, you put it in my bin. If you still have one.
I'll try to. I need to make a note.
Make a note of it.
The only thing is, like, Javier Pulido's, his work has sort of evolved throughout the years. When I first saw him, I believe it was on Amazing Spider-Man about 10, 15 years ago. And he was doing some of the cool panel work there as well, but with a slightly different style. His eyes have gotten really, really big of late, much more cartoony. It's even, the line work is pared down to being sort of simplistic, a la Paul Grist, who is a British comic booker. He does a lot with shadow and stuff like that. I would like this version of his panel layouts with the older version of his style. But otherwise, I mean, this is awesome. This is so much fun to look at. And
he's in a superhero world too, which you just happen to be on that last page, and so I'm interested to see how that will go. Like this supervillain team now knows who he is, because I guess his identity was compromised as well. Nobody knew who he was, and there we go. The cover of issue number 2, bringing it home.
Unbelievable.
Why would they do
that? It looks almost like a Rob Liefeld,
like a parody of the original Ninjak.
Well, here's the thing. Unfortunately, this is Valiant Comics, and Valiant, we know, has been trying very hard to reestablish some type of foothold in the comic book universe. And I think the powers that be there, and then I mean the people that are making decisions, not so much the creators, as you can tell by the interiors of this book, but the powers that be there still have a very 90s mentality, and they think that type of artwork is going to sell, and to me that shows a lack of trust in your property and in your true creators. Because anybody,
I think a fear also, right? That you're like, no, we can't show it being this different. I think you're exactly right, Len, when you said they split their audience, kind of, you know, by having the willingness to do it on the interior, but not being confident enough to show it on the cover, you know?
Yeah, and you kind of run into a problem because even if you do reel in those 90s people with the cover and they open this, that sort of aesthetic, I'm making a generalization. I feel like people who appreciate that sort of aesthetic will be offended by how cool the interior is. Like, they won't think this is cool at all. They'll think that this is amateurish and ugly. And so then you've disappointed the audience you were going for by doing your safe cover. And instead, you're also not bringing in the people who would think this is cool.
Right.
So you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot 2 times.
Yeah.
The only way you can get away with something like that, because there have been, let's face it, there have been covers where the art looks wholly different from what is inside, right?
Yeah.
But when that happens, then it generally is the cover looks like something that almost couldn't be produced on 22 consecutive pages, right? Yeah. Because it looks almost like a painting, or it's by an artist who can't do 22 pages anymore.
Alex Ross.
Adam Hughes or Alex Ross, right? So you buy that. So now I'm just buying the book. I know I'm buying the book for a poster cover and possibly a cool comic book. Because this art looks so evocative of what was on the pages in the 90s, and also, let's be fair, is on the pages of some other comic books that are still on the shelves now. That makes the disconnect all the more, just jarring when you open it up, and it doesn't sell the comic book at all. It is not what the comic book is in look or feel. The comic book is so much more than that. It really is. If ever a comic book begged for a 9,000
why is there a variant on this? Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
This comic.
Well, I think you're right again, Len, that if the art styles were switched, you'd be like, oh, that makes sense, because this goes up a level, right? Alex Ross's art is up a level of whatever complexity or whatever artisticness, but it's the other way around in this case. Yeah.
Don't just listen to us. Taint Misbehavin' commented, good morning, guys. Jeff Parker is such a solid writer, and Javier Polito's layouts in this book are incredible.
That was a solid Reading Rainbow LeVar Burton moment there, JD. But don't take our word for it.
Oh, funny. Let's move on to...
Hey, JD, if you don't mind me just interjecting a little bit before we move on, I just had a question for B, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Well, thank you, B.
Thank you.
If people were listening and watching our show, and they were moved to want to maybe help make this show go, how could they do so?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, Len. The answer here is patreon.com/Johnny Destructo is a website that the Patreon people have set up with Johnny Destructo's help to allow you to like send us money, right? Which is great. These headphones are theoretically purchased through the Patreon.com
I still have to pay you for those.
JD hasn't given me the money for it, but whatever, it's fine. The intent was there. And
fired.
It's that kind of intent that we appreciate, but we also really appreciate it if you just tell people about the show, right? Yeah. So if you can donate money, that's awesome. A quarter a month, anything. If you can just tell people about the show, if you like it, get them to watch it, because honestly, that's most of the reason that we do it. We love to talk in front of people about comics and whatever, and the more people, the merrier. So, yeah. Thanks for asking, Len.
So if you gave the Patreon specifically to buy Brian his headphones, JD, kick that money over the
I keep forgetting.
That's quite all right. It's quite all right. I wasn't even expecting it because I lost the previous headphones that the show did in fact buy me that JD surprised me with one day. And also, of course, as you know these days, like, subscribe, post about it on Facebook, that kind of thing. We love it if you come here when we're live, but even afterwards. Yeah, nice things preferably,
Yeah, and post about nice things about us on Facebook. Yeah. Oh yeah, email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com, and we'll discuss your email on the air. We used to do that all the time, but ever since coming on the YouTube, we get less of them because I guess everyone's just hanging out in the chat.
Well, now we're live, and I think that's fun. Also fun.
Yeah. Before I introduce this book, did everyone read? Because I didn't. Savage Hearts.
I read it.
I did read Savage Hearts. I did read it.
Okay, great. Savage Hearts #1 by Dark Horse Comics, written by Aubrey Sitterson with art by Jed Doherty. Doherty.
Could be Doherty even. Who knows?
Is that Doherty?
Could be.
She's a brawny barbarian bruiser with a broken heart. He's a lonely beastman who talks to dinosaurs. What happens when they team up against an evil sorcerer? Action, comedy, and romance in this all-new jungle fantasy rom-com from Aubrey Sitterson of No One Left to Fight, the comic book story of professional wrestling, and Jed Doherty, World's Finest, Harley Quinn, Justice League Future's End. That's the end of it. Did not end that properly. The inflection was wrong.
You should write him to apologize.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did not read Savage Hearts. All right. For reasons. Who wants to talk about it? You do. Go.
Let's chat. Len, go ahead. Were you into it?
Okay, I read it. I wanted it to be into this comic book. The art is good art. It's great art. The inking is a little bit heavy in that sometimes it was hard for me to discern the background from the foreground and things of that nature. But for the most part, it's an interesting comic book. It's great looking comic book. The colors pop. The story, it drops you right in the middle of this universe and it just asks you to play catch up. I don't mind that type of storytelling. And while I mean drop you in the middle of this universe, you're right in the middle of an adventure, and it also has its own look and language. Like, you've got to understand the slang of this universe as well. But even in this, even with them having their own language, this comic book to me was nothing but running double entendres. And while that can be fun and cute for the first 3 pages, for 28 pages, I'm like, all right, bruh, enough of the horns. Like, let's pump our brakes here, right? And while you can drop somebody into a middle of a story, in the middle of an adventure, in the middle of the universe, there does have to be a moment where you slow down a little bit and play a little bit of catch up. Now, that generally does sometimes happen around issue 2 or 3, but with so much going on in this comic book, I was hoping for at least 1 page to breathe. And this comic book didn't give it to me. But that could just be me. You know, your mileage may vary as you read this comic book and get wrapped up in the whole fantasy elements of it and just enjoy it for this thrilling ride that it purports to be. I just think that it's a ride that could have been a little bit more evenly paced, but as a crazy fun, action-packed fantasy with this big, like, She-Hulkish type of chick running around who's like, just badass, but she's buxom and bodacious with her body, and she's got this horned night crawlerish looking guy like running up, after her, fell in love with her. Well, yeah.
Who is this?
It looks like Mr. Tumnus from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Right.
Oh.
And he basically falls in love with her at first sight, which, to be fair, if I came across...
I get it.
If John Byrne's She-Hulk was in real life, I would fall in love with her in first sight. So I can rap with that, but And you might get involved in this and enjoy it. And I can see people having a whole lot of cosplay fun with this comic book.
Sure.
But to me, it was just a little bit too much too soon. But that being said, it was fun, great art, and I think people will enjoy it.
I see a lot of Art Adams.
Little bit.
Art style.
Most
there
definitely.
is. It feels a lot. Well, before I get into that, there are a lot of double entendres. There are also a lot of just single entendres where he's like, "I would like to be having sex with you at this moment." Yeah, he doesn't mince entendres, this guy. So it reminds me a lot of those like 90s, but maybe even earlier actually, but I was just reading them in the late 80s, early 90s, or coming across them then. This like body fantasy, that kind of thing where, you know, it's highly sexual and all about like this character is all about his, being with this woman, adventurer, warrior.
Yeah.
And like that's his whole reason for being, which is not an uncommon type where it's the man, this like Don Juan kind of guy, you know, or like the guy who's all about love, like falls for somebody and wants her, and we'll see what happens. I did like the bit because it's tongue in cheek, also in the style of those earlier things. I like the bit where the guy they want this Fuchsian orb, and she's like, well, you know, my intended will protect me, and he comes out with a big hammer. And then these people show up, and he's like, "Just give him the orb. It's not. We will get you another orb. It's not. I'm not fighting these guys.
It ain't that deep, you know."
Yeah. Right. What do you want with this orb anyway? And so yeah, it has all the markings and makings of a romp, of a bawdy fantasy story that is absurd, that is like silly too, and great. Like this army of birds coming up that everyone is terrified of, the flappers. So yeah, I mean, not something that I would necessarily feel drawn to continue, but if you like that kind of story, it's another fine entry.
This art is really nice. I really like the art in this book a lot. I'm really stricken by the architecture in this one panel. The layout of the page and the architecture therein, I think, is really, really cool. I keep going back to it. I just think it's really well done, really well constructed.
That like
it is
priest building. You're talking about the architecture that is depicted in the panel.
Yes,
right.
The
Okay,
actual
great.
Architecture of the building.
Right.
The way the building is put together, and it looks really solid, and it looks like something that could exist in real life. Yeah, this
it's
is
interesting
really
in contrast to the other ones too. Right. I hadn't noticed that, JD, but the directly above in that page, the panel directly above is the like village that is surrounding that, and there's a strong difference between those two styles.
Yeah, very, very
that's
cool.
Cool notice.
This does not look like something I would care to read, just to base it on what's happening that I'm looking at. But the art is really nice.
Yeah, you can't.
I won't knock it because I can't.
This is one of those comments. This is the story that in days of old, this would not be its own series. This would be a part of like heavy metal. Or back when Marvel did Epic.
Yeah, some anthology book.
Yeah, it would be like and it would feel perfect there. And then it would have its run of about 3 or 4 issues of that magazine, and then somebody will pull it out of there and they release it as one.
It would definitely be a magazine, though, right? Like in the eras where comic, you hardly well, not that you see that many now, but definitely magazine size. I just happened to notice again this architecture that you pointed out. In the front of it, there's these 2 fruits, which you see later in the jungle. There's these like that's pretty cool detail. Yeah.
What was I saying? I said Art Adams. I'm going to add with by way of Ed McGuinness.
A little bit with the muscles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The difference I will say is that Ed McGuinness tends to draw everybody with muscles. Ed McGuinness is this 21st century Bart Sears. Whereas Art Adams, he definitely has a way around the woman's body, but there's a little bit more subtlety to Art Adams' art, I think.
Yeah, this is.
Which could also be the inking that you noticed then.
To the nth, yeah. But all right, let's see. Any more books? Is that the end of it? What do we got? Oh no, it's not. Oh geez, it's not. But I got 10 minutes before I open the store, so we're just gonna go through Sinister War and Man-Eaters really quickly. Sinister War #1 from Marvel Comics, written by Nick Spencer and Mark Bagley. Dr. Octopus is back, and the Sinister War has begun. Ock's got a new Sinister Six, and if you think he's thought big in the past, think again. What Ock doesn't know is that the Vulture has a sextet of his own, the Savage Six. It's an all-out war, oh my god, that's the title, between two of the greatest villains in the Marvel Universe, and the only person they hate more than each other is Spideyman. Spidey's in deep trouble with the toughest battle he's ever faced. So, for some reason, this is called Sinister War #1 and not Amazing Spider-Man Sinister War #1, or just part of this Amazing Spider-Man run. I'm not sure why they've done this, but whatever. This is part of the Amazing Spider-Man run by Nick Spencer, and this has art by Mark Bagley, which is pretty cool. Nice to see him back. And peaks and valleys with Nick Spencer's run. I think some of it is really, really fun and really cool, and does rely heavily on some member berries, as we keep saying in the show today for some reason. But it's not all peaches and cream. I think some of the stories have been a little lackluster. This, however, is fun. I thought this was a really big, fun, crazy Spider-Man story. It felt very, very Spider-Man, especially now that Mary Jane is kind of back full-time, it seems, from California. She was out making a movie secretly with Mysterio, who is trying to be reformed. Thank you.
Rehabilitate? No.
Yeah. And so we have like 4 different villain teams coming together, which this is big and fun and crazy. I really enjoyed this. This is a high point so far of Nick Spencer's run. What did you think, Len?
Oh, okay. Well,
sorry.
No, it's fine.
You're part of the show. I had to include you.
And I appreciate
I think he's more sorry about what he's about to say.
Yeah,
I know.
I just didn't care. I like the let me say this. I like the rehabilitation of Mysterio, right? But for the most part, I have liked a lot of the rehabilitation of Spider-Man villains. To the point where I hate when they are back to being villains. Like I loved Sandman when he was like, you know what, I'm tired of this. It made sense. So him going back to a villain didn't make any sense to me. Rhino, I like when he rehabilitated him, but I could see him going both ways. Rhino, they kind of like made him like Solomon Grundy. Depending on who's writing them, you can feel sorry for the big dumb guy, or he's just a big dumb guy, right?
Well, and also we have multiple Rhinos.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that, and I don't know which Rhino this is. So I like the idea of Mysterio being the latest Spider-Man villain to try and rehabilitate his image and leaning in on who he is, like in the movie trade and special effects and all that type of stuff. I'm cool with it, right? And I don't even mind the idea of there being a Savage Six and a Sinister Six. I was like, okay, this is kind of fun, especially because, as Spider-Man points out, some of you guys like, dude, I barely know you. Why are you hitting me? Why are you wasting your time with me? Like, there's so many other heroes that you could be better suited for. Like, I don't even know you, dog. Why are you hitting me? Like, this is not fair, right? But that's Spider-Man. So that digs. I'm with that. But then, as in everything with Spider-Man, it always has to lead back to his personal life, and who knows Peter is really Spider-Man, and it all goes back to kindred, and which somehow get back to the Osborns, and it becomes like, oh my god, please. This is just annoying as hell? Can we just like let that go?
You know what's even more annoying, Len? I don't know if they told you this in this issue or not, because I caught up on a bunch of Amazing this week. It's not just that Kindred is Harry Osborn. There's also a Harry Osborn that is imprisoned by Kindred with Carly. And then there's another Harry Osborn who we saw his corpse. So there's 3 different Harry Osborns floating around in different forms.
It's just so annoying. And it's, to me, if you really want to return Spider-Man to his glory, you get back to this: the villains fighting Spider-Man, and then all of a sudden fighting each other. You know, that's Spider-Man. Like, unfortunately, that's his luck in life. But then you got to wrap all this supernatural Kindred and all this. Please. And then Mark Bagley, who is, God bless him, a very talented artist. But because he's also an artist who, as much as I hate to say this about my favorite artist all the time, George Perez, he's an artist who I think his age is showing, because there are moments when his art is on point, and then there's moments when his art is just like really like slipping. Like, people's eyes will be resting on their cheeks, and I'm like, yo.
To be fair, and also a little cruel, that was young Bagley's thing too. I literally said, when I see a different artist and their eyes are sort of Sloth from Goonies, I call them Bagley eyes.
Okay,
that's not recent.
Well, and then it was just very egregious on here, especially
that's his calling card.
Especially when you're drawing Mary Jane, who has been built up to be this voluptuous beauty in all of Marvel, and then sometimes she's not as well defined artistically in the book. So ultimately, this became like a big mishigash. It just felt like a Spider-Man annual to me. But I just think because it was more of the same stuff that is just been annoying me about Spider-Man lately.
It sounds like Brian Michael Bendis wrote Len's dialogue just now.
Yeah. Oi, with this Spider-Man and the villains coming after him every day. I liked it. So I think we brought up a couple of weeks ago that I haven't read Spider-Man in some time. It was when it went to 3 times a month in like the early Brand New Day that I was like, this is too much, and I just kind of dropped off. I was like, oh, it was nice reading about Peter Parker a little bit. He's in his Spider-Man costume, flipping around, shooting webs, all that kind of
sticking on stuff.
Yeah, everything a spider can do. He does it. That's probably not true. But also the
he doesn't shoot webs out of his ass.
Yeah, that's something a spider can do. He doesn't possess a thorax, right? That's my qualm with Spider-Man. He's still in it.
Always has been. Yeah.
Always has been. I'm like, where's the thorax? And I'm nuts. Yeah. But I liked the Savage Six. It was way late into my comics reading when I was told or realized that a lot of Spider-Man villains are animal-based too, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. They're all together. So I just enjoyed it. For a moment I was like, oh, maybe I'll start checking out Spider-Man again, see what happens with all of this. And the Mephisto Doctor Strange stuff. I mean, I'm down with it, but I also get where you're coming from, Len. Like, it's not really his main thing, and Spider-Man does not lend himself to other things as well as some other characters, right? Like, Batman can be in the occult, and then in the next issue he's in the dark streets of Gotham, and he's not the kind of guy who ever saw a witch in his life or a vampire, you know what I mean? And it just all works. Spider-Man is not quite that malleable for whatever reason. So
even Daredevil, I thought it was kind of strange when Daredevil back in the Ann Nesenti run would go up against Mephisto and
Yeah.
Blackheart and stuff. But I was like, well, I guess the devil's in his name. I guess that's all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, ever since Brand New Day or One More Day, where the deal was made with Mephisto, it felt very out of field. It's not right at all for a Spider-Man story to make a deal with the devil. For a guy who's all about responsibility to then take the easy way out of making a deal with the devil, fuck you. So I'm hoping that this is sort of wrapping that up.
Seems like, and Doctor Strange is like, he would never do that and that kind of thing.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely understand, Len, where you're coming from as well. But yeah, this just felt like a lot of fun to me. I actually quite enjoyed this. Let's move on to Maneater's the Cursed, Image Comics, Chelsea Kane, Emily Powell. Maneater's the Cursed reunites the original Maneater's creative team for another tale of adolescent feminist daring-do and supernatural hijinks. Maud, now 15, is sent to craft camp for the week. It goes south pretty quickly. Smart, laugh-out-loud, funny, provocative, referential, scary, chock full of ephemera, and compulsively rereadable, plus fairies. Advisory: do not read this book while you are actually camping. I did not... I think I read the first Maneater. Oh gosh, he's got my laptop again. I read the first Maneaters for the most part. I'm not sure that I finished it. Let me change the thing up. There we go, Maneaters. And it was fine. I think part of my trouble with Chelsea Kane is that she suffers from white woman feminism, which sort of excludes other sorts of feminism, like trans people and women of color and stuff like that.
This is this is like what you know of her outside of comics?
Outside of the comic book itself.
I got you.
It was even, the story, Maneaters, the original miniseries, is about a world where when women get their periods, they turn into were-panthers. And so, society has made it so that they can drink this drink, which suppresses that. And that's sort of a whole commentary about
you didn't know that,
feminism.
No.
Which has nothing to do with what's happening in this series. But one of the interesting questions was from the readers, well, how does that affect trans women? Like, how does that's an interesting story you could be telling, where you're kind of excluding this whole the very interesting element of, the trans community, which I think is the same but the same sort of thing that could be dealt with in Y the Last Man, but they don't really do it. All of the men die, and how does that affect trans women and sort of stuff? I'm wondering if the TV show, which has just been announced, will be, sort of deal with that. But the problem lies wherein I guess people were tweeting at her about that, like, hey, what about the trans community and stuff like that, and sort of taking her to task for it. And instead of writing some sort of response to it, her solution was to take those tweets from those people and, without asking, reprint them in the next issue of Maneaters on billboards.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about that. Yeah.
Which is, holy shit, what a dick move, man. Like, you could just say something. You don't have to take these things, which are legitimate questions and concerns, and then just make fun of it by making them, background panels in your comic book. I don't know. It just felt really kind of gross to me. This, Maneater's the Cursed, has little to nothing to do with the original series, from what I can tell, other than the main character. And it's all about going to, sleepover camp and sort of the weird things that are going on there. And it's a little supernatural and a little spooky. And I actually quite enjoyed this. I thought this was really kind of fun and interesting. And just like in the original series of Maneaters, they use real life or, fake real life things. Like in the back, the very last page of the issue is a fake ad for a product that exists within the Maneater's world, but it looks like a real ad. They photoshopped it to look real, but it's not.
Okay.
So they play with the format that way a little bit, which I respect. But I just kind of had I was like, oh man, I wish she kind of handled that a little bit better. But also this issue was kind of good. But that's where I'm at. Robert Monroe says, I'm looking forward to the return of Maneaters. But Robert Monroe continues, but trans women don't get their periods, so they wouldn't be affected. So, yeah. What did you guys think? Len?
I didn't read the book. This was the book that I did not read.
Oh, wait. Oh, from before. Yes.
Right.
I'd almost forgotten, and then bang.
And it has nothing to do with what the book is about. I didn't. Yeah. I just didn't get a chance to read it, so I don't want anybody to extrapolate anything from that.
Brian, continue. I'm going to go change this diaper.
I thought it was cute. I hadn't read the earlier one. Midway through reading it, I was like, "Oh, right, there was that thing where the women get turned into." I thought it was wolves, but it's panthers. And yeah, it was cute. Sometimes cutesy, more than that. There were some of those I thought worked really well, and it was like, oh, that was enjoyable. Other times I'm like, all right. They do interstitials also sometimes, which, I feel compelled to read. And then sometimes I'm like, all right, I'm done with this massive block of information that is not really relevant to the story. So there's some interesting teases of what this story is going to be. All the campers go missing except for these two people. There is also a boy here. So maybe she will address some sort of trans issues. I don't know. I mean, I like what Robert Monroe Jr. said. I mean, trans women don't get their period, so they wouldn't be affected. Makes sense, in the laws of this world that are created, which I don't know because I haven't read the previous one, but that makes perfect sense. It can be a little difficult to judge somebody for what they haven't touched on in their story.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel some type of way about that a little bit. I mean, because it is their story, right. As long as they're not being ill about it, I'm like, all right, we'll tell you a story, I'll either accept it or not and keep it moving.
Right. Like, my understanding is it just didn't come up at all. And I didn't, I didn't read it, so I don't know, but that's like having seen news articles or whatever, hear Joy D talk about it. It just didn't come up. And yeah, who knows what she was trying to go for with her original tale or what have you.
Let me just make myself clear. My problem is not that she did not touch on the trans experience. That is not my problem.
Oh yeah, I didn't think that was your problem with it, JJ. I thought that was other people's problems with it.
Yeah. My stance on that is maybe she doesn't feel qualified to
also possible.
Touch on that. Like, maybe she doesn't know enough about that experience to think that she could write about it in a realistic kind of way in her storyline. And so she just sort of skips it, right? My problem was with her response to people. It seemed like a dick move, what she wound up doing with just without permission, reprinting these tweets in her book.
Is that something you need?
Write what you know, right? For? Like if I don't think every type of character needs to be included in every type of story.
Right.
But it was really just kind of like it felt more like a kind of thing,
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
But to Brian's point, like he said, is that something that you necessarily need permission to do? Well, whether or not you're with ultimately doing it, do you need the permission to do that?
Right. Like you said this out in the world. You said it in a public way, and it's fair game now that you said it. That it can be reprinted. And I mean, this is a whole new era of communication in humankind where these people are not public personas.
I'm not sure if I put a tweet out there that I would want someone to publish my tweet in a publication with my Twitter.
You published it. you published it
already.
They're referencing a previously published thing. You know what I mean? You didn't say it to a couple of friends.
What you can and cannot do is one thing. What is a dick move is different.
Well, no, I meant can in a moral sense, not legal. Just like you said this for the world to see, and now the world is seeing it. But also, like I was saying, we are in a whole new era of human communication, and that is something we've never really had to address or think about before. Like, what if you said something at the bus stop and then it was reprinted in a newspaper article? Is not something that was going to happen, But now we're at a place where people who are not public personas have a public platform that is indelible. right? It's written out there, whereas, so it's not like the conversations of old. So this is maybe something that, we've got to think about in a much larger context than this.
I don't know. I still don't see it necessarily as a dick move. You might, and that's fair if people, feel differently. I don't see it as a dick move because I can also think if, you said something glowing about somebody in a tweet, and then you put that glowing tweet in their comic book. Is that a dick move? No, you just you got it, and you incorporate it in some way into your art or your publication that you put out there, right? And so if I say this without knowing how the tweets necessarily were used in the comic,
right? Because that matters too.
That does matter as well. But to just have them there is, I don't know. I mean, me myself, if I were going to do it, I will put them as part of the letters page as a response to the comic. I wouldn't necessarily make them as part of the art. So maybe that I could see.
Yes.
I still don't see that as a dick move, because I still think that if somebody in my comic book was walking through a gallery and on the gallery pieces were actual framed positive tweets, is akin to the same thing. So I don't necessarily want to say that I see it as a dick move, but I can see there where the idea of permission comes in, as opposed to the tweets being just a part of the commentary of the art in general at the end as part of the letters page or something like that. But on the surface, I just don't see it necessarily as a dick move. I didn't read this comic book. I looked at the art. It reminded me of Terry Moore, the creator of Strangers in Paradise, which is one of my favorite comic books of all time. Except that this artist seems to have more than 3 faces that they can draw. So, so maybe maybe I might actually read this comic book. So it
got
looked kind of interesting, but yeah, that was it.
Great cover.
Great cover. Very great cover.
The cover, which is works better, but similar this would look better for a Ninjak, right? Yes. And also is not similar to the art inside, but nobody says anything because it's the more abstract, and then you get the lower one down. Not lower, but
yeah, I do like the art style in this very much.
Yeah.
So here's what I was talking about. All of these parents are sending their kids away to camp specifically so they can go on vacation without their children. And so they have a listing here on a sort of Airbnb type website, and they've formatted the entire thing to look authentic, which is kind of like fun stuff that they do with the art style in this.
That joke was well done too.
Yeah.
Where they're like, we're sending you because we really want to have you, blossom in this way, and you love it. Yeah. And then the next panel is like, I'll send her somewhere. I don't know. We'll go.
Yeah, we'll send her somewhere. Yeah, we got to go. We're going somewhere.
Yeah.
And also these awful buttons that they have to wear: panic attacks, bedwetter, picky eater, Gemini, hyperactive, contagious rash, socially awkward, clumsy, easily startled. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a fun little comic. And even just the way that the camp counselor talks to the children is pretty funny. It's just a fun book.
Very
I'm curious to see if this has anything to do with man-eaters, or if this is just like in the man-eaters world, here's what happens when you go to day camp or sleepover camp.
Right.
So yeah. Anyway.
Right.
The comic book itself was fun. The stuff I brought into it, the baggage is my own. So
there you go. And sometimes that's that does inform your enjoyment of something.
Yeah.
You got to recognize that.
So,
well, I think that's the comic book this week, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. And Len, I want to say on the record also, I totally was into your use of the word Michigas. Before. I loved it. You're welcome.
I never know how it's pronounced, so thank you. I've always seen it.
Michigas.
I'm like,
Yeah,
Michigosh,
craziness
Michigish?
is the translation. All this Michigas. Mashugana is also another form of yeah. Like if the person is acting crazy. This Mashugana thing.
Right.
Well,
Thank you. And thank you, each and every one of you, for hanging out with us here on the CultPop Go comic book review show that we call Spoiler Alert. Shout out to Kai, who's a very, very good little boy today.
Yeah.
We got through all the main ones JD wanted to talk about, and then all the other ones.
Definitely. Shout out to Noel and Brandon. Brandon's always in the background, and Noel, who couldn't be here today, but because he's chilling with his family. And much love and good tidings to our other friend in the background, Rob, who is home dealing with some family things of his own, and we hope everything is going well with him as well. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, for Brian, for Johnny, this is Len.
Yes.
Bye.